Good afternoon, guys. It's Workin, bringing you a quick update on Bitcoin. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. I do apologize for the lack of updates. I've been on the road the last few days, and it's just been a lot of things going on. Anyway, guys, so I do apologize for the lack of updates, but we are back in the saddle. I'm still on the road, guys, so I don't know that I'll be able to do as many updates as I have, but I wanted to get this out to you. We're looking at Coinbase, or excuse me, we're looking at Bitcoin to the US dollar. This is the 4-hour chart. We are looking at Coinbase. Normally, I look at Bitfinex. Obviously, guys, you've probably noticed that Bitfinex has had quite the discrepancy in price between most other exchanges. It's about a 10% premium over at Bitfinex right now, trading at about a 10% premium. There's a lot of strange things over at Bitfinex, and I want to be careful what I say. I don't want to spread any FUD at all. I think it's very, let's just say, interesting what's going on with Tether. Tether is at, I believe, at the lowest point, so like 96 cents, which is at the lowest point it's been in for about a year. I don't think it's been this low for about a year. So a lot of people, I think, are getting scared out of Tether. Whether or not that's justified, I'll leave that up to you. I'm not going to spread any FUD again, and I'm not saying I have any insider information other than a lot of the stuff that I do read, and I'm not going to pass on to the things that I've read because a lot of it might be FUD. So I'll leave that up to you. All I will say is if you are in Tether, just make sure you're careful, and I will say that I'm avoiding Bitfinex right now until they can get their until we get a little more information out. I'll just leave it at that. So most of the exchanges are reflecting a price closer to what Coinbase is reflecting, so that is why I'm using Coinbase here. Some of the numbers that you'll see for my support and resistance are slightly different just because this is a different exchange than what I normally have used in the past, but the ideas, the principles, of course, are all the same. So looking at Coinbase, guys, this is on the 4-hour chart. As I said, we saw this massive, of course, we saw the sell-off. We talked about that. We had the bounce right at the descending support line of this larger wedge, and then just earlier this morning we had this major increase in price. We had price just spike from about 61.80 all the way up to about 68.10. Somewhere thereabouts. Just a massive spike in price, guys. And of course, we had a massive rejection as well. This is not normal. If we zoom in here, we can see this is kind of this. We usually don't see a pattern like this on the higher time frames. Usually you see this kind of, they call it a Bart Simpson pattern on lower time frames, like the hourly and somewhere thereabouts, guys. It's very rare you see it so obvious on the high time frames, but that's exactly what this is a manipulative pattern. This just screams of manipulation. This was a clear stop hunt. If we come over here, and there's also a lot more than just a stop hunt. Yes, this was a stop hunt, but we're also seeing on top of that stop hunt, I think we're seeing a lot of people transfer out of Tether and transfer into Bitcoin because they're scared of Tether right now, which is also causing that increase in price. A lot of people are saying that it's only the increase in Tether. Other people are saying it was only I think it's a little bit of both that caused this increase in price. One thing is for certain, this is not natural to see a price increase like this, especially followed by such a massive correction. I mean, we went from 68.10 all the way back down to 63.90 inside of like 4 hours, somewhere thereabout. If I zoom in here and I pull my fib level, we haven't retraced all the way to the point to where I think it's just going to crash as of yet. We go swing low, swing high. We can see that we traced almost to the 618. So that's, it's not the retracing that's a concern. It's how quickly this happened that I find very, very interesting. How we just dropped, this in price from going such a massive spike. So it's very interesting. I'm going to continue to watch it here, guys. As far as, are we going to see lower prices? Is this the start of a bull run? Well, we certainly did break this bearish trend that we've been in for a very, very long time. That even if we end up down to lower prices, I think this is the fact. I told you guys last time that this bearish trend had to, or this repetitive pattern, I should say, had to come to an end. If we zoom out here and we look at the bigger picture, guys, I've showed you this numerous times. It's just been one smaller rally after the next, after the next, after the next. And eventually this thing was moving almost completely sideways, and there was really nowhere else for this thing to go. It was either going to completely collapse or we're going to get a major spike. We got a major spike. Of course, it immediately corrected right back down to the point to where it almost didn't. It certainly held on to some of its gains, and that I'm not complaining. I'm just saying this thing thing can be completely turned right back around. If we come over here and we look at short positions, this is getting very interesting. Of course, shorts, if we zoom in here, we're going to see shorts when we got that spike. It triggered all those stop losses, and shorts just got, a lot of shorts, I should say, not all, but a lot of shorts got liquidated. And now look at this. They're coming right back up. These shorts are coming right back up. Now let's look at longs. Longs, you would expect longs to start to stack. We're getting the opposite. Longs are starting to continue to fall off. This means that a lot of people with that rise in price, they went ahead and they took profits. They were so used to this manipulative pattern that market makers have been in that retail is getting smart to that. So retail, I do believe retail basically just took their profits. They hit whatever target they were targeting. Price came back up. More than likely, a lot of them were probably targeting, they were sitting down here, a lot of them probably targeted 65, 60, 65, 40, somewhere thereabouts, somewhere up here. And this is the area that I would have absolutely gotten out of. I would have gotten in earlier because I'm a more conservative trader. But if you're targeting, I would have been targeting 65, 40 for that reversal. So a lot of them probably came up, hit 65, 40. They took their profits right off the board. Excuse me, guys. And of course, price ended up coming up even higher than that, and then it just ended up, escalated a lot of these people's targets, and targets just got taken off the board, and then it just collapsed. And we are not seeing that follow through with long. We're not seeing that optimism that you would expect in retail with such a major price hike. And we are still seeing retail expect this thing to go lower, as we can see that, as price is starting to stack. And even though we had this major drop off in short positions and now they're starting to stack, overall shorts remained very, very stacked compared to longs overall. So yes, they were liquidated here. That's not insignificant, but overall, bigger picture, shorts remained fairly well stacked, which is very interesting. That tells you that people are they're so used to this manipulation to these stop hunts, I should say, that they're not falling for it anymore. Retail is getting extremely smart. So it really is this game of chicken between retail and between market makers and retail. And it's going to be very interesting to see which way price goes. So which direction is price going to go? Personally, I know this is very, very frustrating to hear from an analyst, guys, but this is extremely hard to analyze. This is such an unnatural move. This is so manipulated. This market is so manipulated. And even though we have a very large increase in volume compared to the last few days, in fact, it's almost doubled. I mean, yesterday it was at 3 billion the day before that, 3.7 billion the day before that, and today we're at 6.7 billion. So literally has doubled. However, volume was so weak that even with it doubling, we're still at fairly weak volume. Remember, we need to see volume, in my opinion, we need to see volume on a daily basis above 10 billion to signal that new money is entering this market. And right now it's sitting at about 6.7 billion, and this is only on the daily, only today. So it's going to be very interesting to see but it's a good start. Could this be the start of a bull run? It could be. We broke this pattern. Price came up, and normally we're so used to watching price, as I've showed you guys countless times. I'm not going to bore you with it again by actually drawing it out, but I've showed you guys through every single one of these rallies, price ended up retracing right about to the 618 fib and then collapsing every single time. This changed all that. Price ended up coming back up, retraced, ended up collapsing, and then it spiked right back up and went well above the 618 fib. It actually came up and created almost a double top right up here, guys. And now it didn't break this high, and that's what, in my opinion, that's what we need to see. We need to see an actual breaking, an actual establishment of a higher high in relation to the prior high. We need to have a higher high. We did not see that, but this still is a break in that bearish trend. So let's wait to see how this kind of ends up playing out, guys. I'm not entering any positions. I'm hands off. Where will I enter a position? If price does end up dropping, pardon me, guys, if price does end up dropping down to about 61.15 again and testing this low again, I do think at that point you're going to get a possible nice little bounce. At least, even if this thing does go lower, I think you'll get a decent bounce from 61.15 up to at least 6,300 before it ends up collapsing again. If it ends up collapsing again, so I might play a quick scalp trade, 61.15 targeting 6,300, where I'll immediately get out, expecting it to possibly fall right back over. That's a real possibility. So small little scalp trades here and there. But as far as going in heavy, I'm not going in heavy at all. at all until this thing has some resolution. What do I mean by resolution? I want to see a new high created, so us break above this 68.10, this prior high back here, us break above 68.10 and actually consolidate above 68.10. So not just by a wick, but an actual breaking of establishing a new high and holding on to that new high, even if it's just sideways movement. Once we start getting that, guys, then I'm going to start to get excited. Until we see that, this is just far too manipulated. And at that point, guys, I do think that we have a very good chance of still coming down and still creating these lows. As I said, this was just pure manipulation, and on top of tether, which is its own little unpredictable scenario in and of itself. So trying to analyze this in a rational way, trying to analyze this in a way that you would analyze a normal market, you can't do that in this market. You just can't. And until we get on an established pattern, which we, again, this is definitely breaking this bearish pattern that we've been in. Now, it might break this bearish pattern only to collapse and create a much more, a much lower low, a much more bearish scenario for it to turn right back around. That's a real possibility. Or we might have seen the low, and this might indicate the start of a new bull run. And again, I know that's so frustrating to hear, guys. It would be much easier for me to just sit here and tell you that this is amazing. You know, we're going to new highs, buy, and then if it ends up turning back around, I could just blame it on market makers and manipulation. And that's what most analysts are going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you that, guys. I'm going to be completely honest with you. As an analyst, I am not entering any positions. I am not except for small scalp trades here and there where I would expect a little bounce with a very tight stop loss. But as far as any going in heavy, I'm not going in heavy until we establish a new pattern off of this. And I do think we are going to establish a new pattern here very, very soon. By very soon, I mean in the next few weeks. I do think we're going to have some major resolution to all of this, and we're going to know whether or not retail is entering this, and new money is entering this, and this thing is starting a new bull run, or whether or not this thing just falls over on itself and creates new 2018 lows. If that does happen, I do think there's a very good chance that that we might have to go much lower to start that bull run. In other words, a lot of people have their buy orders, new money have their buy orders sitting all the way down here, 5,500, even lower than that possibly. In my opinion, I think the lowest would be 4,500, but that I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see, but that would make sense to me. But the point is, we might have to get to lower prices, at which point people will start to get extremely interested, shake out all the weak hands, and then prices may at that point get scooped up at those lower prices and spark that bull run that we're all waiting for. Doesn't mean that has to happen. It just means until we know, I'm not going in heavy at all. And again, I know I sound like a broken record. Looking at our indicators, this is on the daily RSI. When I'm going to start to get very interested in Bitcoin is when this RSI breaks above this descending resistance line that it's been in for a couple months now. Let me get right on that there. So yeah, this, in my opinion, even with this major spike, we still haven't broken above this descending resistance line. So I need to see the RSI up above. I'll even give it a little bit of cushion. I'll say I need to see the RSI break above here, above 50. And maintain itself above 50 before I'll start to believe that a bull run, and this is on the daily, this is only on the daily, before I'll believe a bull run is taking place. If we go in here and we look at the 4-hour chart, let me get rid of this. The 4-hour chart, in my opinion, looks like a possible bearish setup. We can see that if we look at, if we go point to point, this point to this point, what do we have? It came up and created this double top pattern. Now, if we can break above this zone here on the daily, or excuse me, on the 4-hour, this is on the 4-hour, if we can break above this, again, I'll start to get more optimistic. Right now, this looks like a double top to me, which suggests that prices may end up dropping down. Does that mean it's going to drop to new lows? No, just means that short term here, it looks like we may have, it looks like there may still be some room to drop. Just looking at the RSI on the 4-hour. Looking at our moving averages and exponential moving averages, we can see that price broke above the 50-day moving average here, which is a very bullish sign. We can see that it's finding support now right on top of that 50-day moving average. As long as price stays above the 55-day EMA, this pink line here, of course, I'd like it to stay above this 50-day moving average, but as long as it stays above the 55-day EMA, guys, I'll remain cautiously optimistic. I do believe if we do break below the 55-day EMA, again, this is on the 4-hour chart, if we do break below the 55-day EMA, guys, I'll start to get a little more concerned that price is dropping down to much lower prices. Coming over here and looking at the daily, zoom in here. Daily chart broke above. Of course, it temporarily broke above most of these here, broke above actually all of these here, broke above the 50-day moving average, all, but ended up settling above the 8-day EMA. Now that's a good start, ideally, and I've told you guys countless times in the past, when you're looking at the daily chart, typically, a momentum changer is when price crosses the 21-day EMA, and whether that is a cross down or whether that is a cross above. Usually, if price is above and crosses below the 21-day EMA, that's a good, one good indication of a possible trend reversal. If price breaks above, is below, and then breaks above the 21-day EMA, that is a good indication of a trend reversal in favor of the bulls. So let's wait and see. Rather than this long wick, let's wait and see if we can have this daily candle close above the 21-day EMA. If that does end up happening, guys, that's going to be an extremely bullish sign and possibly indicate a momentum shift in favor of the bulls. Not that the bulls don't have some momentum going into this right now, but let's wait. We definitely have no follow through. This is just a very quick, very manipulated looking move. If we can get this to sustain itself and to continue to actually grow, in other words, if price can consolidate on top of this 63.60, I'll even allow even below that. If price stays above 62.35, and we get a strong bounce right above our 62.35, but especially if we can pay above 63.60, guys, that's going to be extremely bullish. If we can consolidate above 63.60 and actually break out decisively, by decisively I mean if we can get a 4-hour candle that opens and closes outside of this wedge that we're in now, that we broke out of temporarily and then immediately got rejected right back in. If we can get it actually breaking out of this wedge, guys, consolidating out of this wedge, that's going to be an extremely bullish sign. Now let's wait and see if that ends up happening. I'm going to start to get extremely concerned if 62.35 does break down. As I said, guys, I might look at a quick scalp trade. I do think there'll be a small bounce at 61.15 if it does get down that low. But I do think if that bounce might be temporary, coming back up 63.30 and then just collapsing right below. So I do think 62.35 will be a very telling zone. Doesn't mean that it has to happen. We might get a strong bounce off 61.15 that continues right up. I'm just saying that I think probability shifts in favor of the bears if 62.35 does end up breaking down, in my opinion. Doesn't mean that has to happen, just in my opinion. As I told you guys, this move is extremely hard to analyze. This is an extremely hard move to analyze, and it's humbling to say that as an analyst. It really is. I mean, I love to feed you guys a bunch of BS like I hear all the time, and I get frustrated, which is why I started giving this analysis in the first place. I get frustrated hearing analysts, mislead people, and they have a 50-50 shot of whether or not this thing is a bull run or bear run, and if they get it wrong, they just blame it on someone else or something else. I'm going to give you my honest opinion and tell you what I'm doing with my money. And my money sits on the sidelines until I know a decisive move, until I see a decisive break in one direction or another. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it there, guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I would appreciate an upvote if you have enjoyed this content. And until next time, guys, please trade safe, take care of yourselves. This is Workin, signing out.